Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our webinar on the CRA Standards Unlocked series. Today, we're unlocking again the CRA security controls, and we will have some time for preparation for the UNE event that is taking place later this month. My name is Els, and I'll be moderating the webinar in the background. So during the webinar, during the presentation, you'll all be muted. You cannot speak out loud, but you have the possibility to submit your questions in the Q&A panel. So please don't hesitate to do so. The speakers will have a look at the questions and try to reply as many questions as possible. Should you be on social media, please feel free to talk about us on X, Blue Sky, or LinkedIn. We have a dedicated hashtag for trainings, which is trainings for standards, and a hashtag for CRA, hashtag standards for CRA. So without further ado, I would like to give the floor to my colleague Lucia Lanfri, who is connected here to introduce you the agenda. So please, Lucia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So we will go through the speakers today. I'm here together with Angelo D'Amato, is a rapporteur of the CENELEC 13, Working Group 9, working on this important standard that you will hear everything about it today. And Amanda, my colleague from the Spanish Standards UNE, will give you a brief overview of how to attend the event in person hybrid in Madrid. We go to the next slide, please. So I will walk you through today very briefly and a recap of standardization requests. What is this? What is important? What is the timeline? And how you can join this work, because you will learn a lot today and hopefully you'll get interested and want to join us in the development. So we will see all of the steps necessary, and then Angelo will walk you through the content. So standardization request is a formal document that the European Commission issues to the European standardization organizations like CENELEC and ETSI, addressing them to develop, revise, or update harmonized standards to support policies or legislations. In this case, of course, is the Cyber Resilience Act. We will let you access to the slides later, where you can find the link to the standardization request that is publicly available for your knowledge. And this request was accepted by CENELEC and ETSI, and we have started all of the work related to the development of the standards. Next slide, please. A harmonized standard is a document actually that translates the requirements in the regulation that establish the what. What do we need to do for fulfilling anything that is specified in that regulation into a how. So the standard, the harmonized standard in general, proposes a way of fulfilling all of the requirements established in the regulation. So we can see this link between the what and the how, and it's developed really by technical committees where we have different experts providing the contents and achieving consensus in a way to provide us with a way representing the state of the art also in a given field. The use of the harmonized standard is always voluntary, so this is something that where we get a lot of questions, and also industries, manufacturers can choose other ways of being conformant with the regulation, but of course having a harmonized standard backing this up can simplify everything. And in particular, the CRA is the first kind of regulation, so there are not really a standard. There are many standards in cybersecurity and protection profiles, but there is not really a standard that currently fulfills all of the requirements of the CRA. So this is very important, the work we're doing, and we look forward to receiving any of your inputs as well. We go to the next slide, please. So this is a little bit for you to understand the process. So the European Commission addresses standardization requests to CENELEC and ETSI in this case also as well. And we develop these documents, what we call these harmonized standards, that at the end, if they are accepted by the European Commission, they can grant presumption of conformity on the given regulation. So this is a very powerful document that can offer some legal certainty as well on how to fulfill the requirements of a regulation. If we go to the next slide, please. We're going to talk a little bit about the standards requests, just to give you a very, very big overview of all the work that is happening, not only on what we're presenting today, but we have many other topics ongoing. We encourage you to take a look. What are the timelines? How is the work organized? Very, very briefly, and how to participate. And if we go to the next slide, please. I can show you, this is a structure that is presented in many webinars and presentations by the European Commission, where we show that the ecosystems of cybersecurity standards for the CRA is addressing a vertical framework, so product-specific framework, so where we will have a lot of type C standards, what we call, for the important critical products, but we will also have horizontal frameworks that are really correlated in a way that help the manufacturer also to fulfill the essential requirements, but not in a specific product category. So they are product agnostic. So they need to be complemented by product specificities of each case in particular, use cases, environments, and so forth. So if we go to the next slide, please, you will see a little bit of more details. And again, it's not the intention to go into the detail in this slide, but just for you to know, there are 41 topics addressed, covering all of the essential requirements of the CRA, together with the essential and critical products, important and critical products, apologies. And we have different technical committees working on this. And if we go to the next slide, you can see actually a little bit of a correlation in what the standardization request actually looks like. The standardization request has an annex listing all of the standards and the topics that are necessary for that we need to develop as CENELEC and ETSI. And we have provided the European Commission a work program indicating what are the different topics that we're going to propose, what are the technical committees that are going to work, and by when we expect to deliver all of the topics. So this is for you to know that there are many topics, not only the one that we're going to see today, and we encourage you to take a look at this document, the standardization request, if not done yet, so you can have a bigger overview of all what is happening for CRA. If we go to the final slides, just for you to know, this is very in high level, the steps in standard development. We have proposal, a lot of drafting and consensus building that takes a lot of time. We go finally to a public inquiry where we gather feedback from the public and we get a lot of comments. We consider the comments, we redraft the standard, and we finally submit it to the last steps of the standard development. When we put this in a timeline for the CRA, and we go to the next slide, please, we see that if we want to really fulfill the expectations of standardization requests of the standards being available by October 2026, this is where you saw that in the previous slides, all of the timelines and the steps, then we put this in the different months that are required to fulfill all of these expectations. And that means that actually we don't have a lot of time to draft. A lot of the drafting has happened already, and we are every time approaching the most essential step, that is the inquiry, where we go to the public inquiry and gather feedback. We go to the next slide, please. So each of these working groups that are developing the standards work under a technical committee, and it depends really on the scope in which they are organized. So the different 41 topics that you saw before that have been requested are going to be assigned to a technical committee according to the scope and the expertise that is in that technical committee. And if we go to the final slide, I think it is how to participate. Actually, when you see CEN and CENELEC have so many members in each of the European countries, so you can participate as an expert according to where you are, where your company is, and ensure that you provide your comments there. So first you have to become a member of any of our CEN and CENELEC members, and if you indicate that you want to develop any of the CRA standards, then the national members of CENELEC will assign you then to the technical committee so that you can come and work and help us in this development. So thank you. That was really a flash overview of everything, because I want to leave the floor to Angelo, because the star of this topic today, this webinar today, is what we're going to see in the hybrid event in UNE. And we wanted you to already have an introduction on the topic and an overview, so you can already know what to expect on that day, and that you can review. This webinar is being recorded, so you can review it, share it with your colleagues, and join us already on that day. Prepare is going to be a workshop, so we need hands on there to work on that day. So thank you very much, and I leave the floor to Angelo, who will need to share his screen, I believe.
Thank you so much, Lucia. I'm sharing 1 second the screen. So I believe that now
We see it perfectly. Thank you, Angelo.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the nice introduction, Lucia. And so this is the second part of the presentation, and I will just briefly introduce myself. So I am, as Lucia already introduced myself, I'm a rapporteur for PT2, generic security requirement. That is the core of the discussion today, and PT3, that is the standard on the vulnerability handling requirement. I have more than 16 years of experience with testing, inspection, and certification, complex end-to-end assessment, and today I will guide you through the PT2 standard about generic security requirement. So today I don't want to go in deep for each section, but I will give you an idea of the context, some use case and example, an idea of security control frameworks, a landscape. We'll provide you an overview of the essential requirement overview, just to refresh. And then what I want to spend more time is the section 004, where I will go one by one on the security control, and I can provide you with the status. For the PT2, I will explain to you what are the next step, what is the status of PT2, what is missing, what are the main challenge, and I will give you some idea on what will happen in the preparation of the workshop. At the end of this of my intervention, there will be Amanda that will provide you with information about the events. And this is the overview. Let's start with the first part. The first part is just to give you context, to understand where you gather information. This slide is just to provide you with some link to give you the main information that you should know about. For example, what is the new legislative framework, link to the regulation, and to the standardization request, along with the status report. This slide is a slide that is always shown by the European Commission, and it simplifies a little bit for you the main component of a CRA, the Cyber Resilience Act. So as you can see, everything starts, so you have design and development phase, maintenance phase, and then other phases, and then you have all the main phases that you should have in place. Risk assessment, product-related essential requirement. This is what we will go deep down today. Then vulnerability assessment, conformity assessment, and then you have all the vulnerability handling requirement along with the reporting obligation after the end of life that will be maintained. This slide is just a reproposition of what Lucia shared before. You can see here the main deadline. I highlighted only PT2 just to give you an highlight of the topic of today. The original date is 30 October 2027 that the standard should be ready, but we are trying to do our best to move ahead the deadline to make sure that our work is also consumable by the vertical standard and can be used also time ahead from that deadline. And so this is the reason why we are having also this workshop in Spain, where we will have also your input, and we will try to speed up some of the activity. In this slide, you can see an overview of what is the standardization request with the main area. You can see just a link to you what is the PT. It means project team 1. Project team 1 is focusing on the line 1 on the standardization request. Basic principle, secure software development lifecycle, risk assessment, and all the phases and activities for maintaining a secure product. PT2 is the standard that we are covering there. Is a product requirement focus on security control and access control, authentication, security update, and so on. And then you can see this, that we will cover the line between the line 2 up to the line 14. And the last one, like I said, is PT2 Project Team 3 that I'm also in charge of, along with PT2, that covers the vulnerability handling for a product with digital element. This is just to give you a feeling of what is the relation between these three standards, and so you can also contextualize better what is the role of PT3. PT1, as I told you, there is all the secure software development lifecycle, more focus on the product oriented, and there are all the minimum activities that are foresee for having a secure product. Then, of course, when you have a risk assessment and you have a risk enumeration, you need to select security control from a security control catalog. And PT2 is a security control catalog, more technological oriented, and will provide support for PT1 for the selection of the right security control that you need to have in your places. PT3 is more for the maintenance of security of your product with continuous monitoring, vulnerability handling, and monitor, of course, of your vulnerability. This this is a slide that is in draft. We are discussing internally, but this is to provide you at least with a context. And here you have additionally what is the difference between PT1 and PT3, that they are more process-oriented and PT2 more product-oriented. I will not go into the details, but at least you have it as a reference to understand what we are speaking about. Lucia already introduced the role of harmonized standard, but the idea to have PT1, PT2, and PT3 is to provide support for vertical standard, but also to provide a way to assess the security for market surveillance, manufacturer, and notified body for the default category, and then, of course, to create, to support the development of the verticals standard. So as you are aware, so CRA was created also because of the case of my friend Kyla. There was a toy that was launched in 2015 that had some security vulnerabilities, like unauthenticated functionality that you can connect with your mobile phone to your toy, and of course this generated a lot of fear within the market, because of course the CE marking that we had in Europe, so the access to market for this product was only looking at the safety of the product itself, but never at the security. And this is the reason why there was the speed up of the launch on the market of RED, Radio Equipment Directive, RED DR 2023 53, so 56, and this is the reason why there was this run to RED to go through now with CRA. In this toy, there were a lack of safety. As I said, there was a problem with unauthorized access, security by default, and there were a lot of problems with privacy, with data minimization, exchanging data to another country, and this for product security was not regulated by the time. So, and this was the main trigger. I will not go into details to the use case, just to save more time for the core of our conversation. This is the reason why I'm speeding up here, just to give you the notes, the basis, but not to go into details. And of course, you can see also the needs for having a regulation like the CRA from event like the Mirai botnet attack and the famous Log4j that highlighted the importance of SBOM. There are in the market a lot of security control. The objective of PT2 is to create so a catalog of security control for CRA, and there is our explicit intention to build up on 18031, that is the harmonized standard for with restriction for the RED DR delegated regulation. And of course, while we are creating our new standard, we need to make sure that we are aligned to the standardization request for CRA and we need to make sure that we are linking our security objective to the security problem definition, security objective, technical. We are writing down the technical specification and really the assessment methodology. How we build up our standard, we'll build up our standard creating a technical report. In our technical report, we started from the essential requirement, then we decompose in threads. We derive a security objective, and now we are linking the security objective to the security control that we are including into the standard. I will show you later how is materializing this mapping so you have a better feeling. Just for, I don't want to say that there is a strict relation with an information security management system, but of course the principles are the same. This is more targeting organization. We are targeting product, I know, and so, but this is the principle is always the same. So you need to assess the risk. You need to select applicable security requirement. You need to implement, monitor the security control, and then document. And this is an entire circle. So what I'm saying is that everything starts from a risk assessment. You are understanding how you treat your risk, how you need to treat the risk. And when you understand how you need to treat the risk, you are mitigating the risk with a mitigation control, and you are doing it through the activity of selecting and implementing the specific control. PT2 is exactly that, is a catalog of control where you can select what are the controls that you need to select to implement mitigation control for your risk. Just to give you a quick relation on what are the security concepts and relations, so you can see here, this is a diagram that I extracted from the common criteria 2022 part 1, and this is a general model, and then of course I link with the terminology used in CRA to make the correlation. And you can see that you as a manufacturer, you are imposing a security control to reduce risk, and of course who is the originator of this risk? A threat agent that of course is generating a risk, and this will translate in a vulnerability if that risk is exploited. And so you can see here that everything then is targeting an asset. So for the financial world, there are money, for of course access to confidential information, and so on and so on. And then of course you need always to know what you need to protect to have the right security level and security measure. There are different security framework for organizational control. As you can see here, I made a screenshot of the Center for Cybersecurity Belgium. This is the cybersecurity fundamentals set of catalog that is derived from 27001 and 27002, the catalog of security control. And this is just how this is addressed, this problem is addressed from an organizational perspective. With PT2, what we want to do it is from a product-oriented perspective as a security control. There is a touch point, and we need just to reuse what we can, and of course not mix the two words, of course. Now we are at the core of our conversation, so that is the essential requirement that we want to touch. Of course, now the scope of CRA is not only the device itself, as it was for RED-DR 2022-30, but is also including associative services, apps, and then of course also remote data processing. There is a little bit of still discussion going on what does it really mean, remote data processing, and what this means for the scope of the product and for the scope of security control, as we will see later, like the implication on software update and others. But you need to know that now the scope is the total product, and this is called within the regulation as a product with digital element. The goal, of course, is not to protect only the software layer, but also the hardware, and to reduce the number of vulnerability within the product that you are bringing on the market. And this will, of course, help in having a better production for consumer, supply chain organization, and all the stakeholders involved within the market. So you are starting from a secure by design, a risk assessment, and all the principles that are described in PT1. Here you can see summarized what are the security control in PT2. You can see known exploitable vulnerability, security by default, and so on and so on. We will go into the details later one by one. So this is just to give you a glance overview of what we will be speaking later. And then, of course, you have a PT3, that is the vulnerability handling requirement. That is not part of our conversation today, but just to complement our conversation, I just listed the summary for you, that the objective that we have within the vulnerability handling is to identify the vulnerability, the S-bomb, remediate vulnerability, to have a regular test. You need to inform on the stakeholder on fixed vulnerability, coordinated vulnerability disclosure, intake of vulnerability, secure distribution of updates, and update of available and related dissemination of updates. I just went quickly. I don't want to go into the details, but at least I gave you just an idea of what are the pointers. Now we are at our goal of today. So this is really important for the workshop, and we will go through the next half an hour within all the security control, what are the main problems, and the main characteristic of that security control. As you can see, the first essential requirement is that you need to make available a product on the market without known exploitable vulnerability. As I told you at the beginning, we are building up on 18,031. Here you see the word mapping. Mapping doesn't mean that is interchangeable, that of course if you comply with red, you comply with CRA, and then opposite. There is maybe a partial mapping and not a full mapping. These graphs doesn't explicit that, so be careful on when you are using the word mapping, disconnected from the presentation of today. But just to give you an idea, so for the first essential requirement for PT2, that is to have a product without a known vulnerable exploitation. So we identify this threat that is called known vulnerability exploitation, and then we have the security objective. Based on that security objective, then we are connecting with the security requirement. In this case, the security requirement that is more affine or more related to this goal is the Jack 1, that is up-to-date software and hardware with publicly known vulnerabilities. This doesn't address 100% the request to have a product without known exploitable vulnerabilities, but covers a good part of the objective of these requirements. So we still need to complement. We didn't add so far for the moment additional security control, and we are thinking how to create a link with PT1 and PT3, but also to add new activities or new activities related to the capability of the product, like how we can test for known vulnerability, and how we can link with the regular test that is in PT3. We are thinking about how we can prioritize these weaknesses that are exploitable, and we are considering to include also more explicit reference to the supply chain. Now it's not there yet, but we are thinking about it. The second requirement that I want to speak about is the secure configuration. And then, of course, when you are launching your product on the market, you need to make sure that the product can be reset to the original state. So if there is a malware, you have the functionality of to reset the product that will revert to the original state and free your product from malware. And then, of course, that you don't have you don't have a weak configuration. And we are looking at the perspective not only at when the product is going on the market to have secure default configuration, but we have also at the startup. So we made this differentiation when the product is going on the market in the hand of the user and when the user is configuring and then the startup process. We don't know how this will translate in a specific requirement and if makes sense 100%, but we are trying to figure out what is best for these purposes. There are still conversations going on, and so we don't want to claim that is final, but we are thinking. Of course, security by default is not only about the configuration itself, but is also to not have insecure product, and this is also linked a little bit to reduce the attack surface and then to not have the full password. We need to understand how we can distribute this requirement between the others and make sure that there is minimum overlap and a kind of semantic distribution of the specific security control. Here for the security control configuration itself, in the preliminary analysis, we didn't identify explicit mapping to the 18031, but of course what we did is to add, based on our identified security objective, 3 new security control that you can see in the slide, the check 8, 9, and 10. Because even in red 18031, there is nothing that was supporting the factory reset or explicit security control related to the factory reset. So we have another control that is security updates. So of course, if you want to maintain your product secure, you need to make sure that you have this capability. Even if vulnerability are happening every day, and and then of course to address that, you need to make sure to have this functionality and that you are capable to push updates to the device when it's possible. And then, of course, here in the security requirement, you have characteristic like you need to notify the user when there are available updates. You need to allow them to postpone the updates. Imagine that you are in the night or you are in Sweden that is very cold, and then you have an update and say, stay 30 minutes without your heater because we need to produce it for an update. So there, in that cases, you would love to have a postpone functionality and to have this kind of functionality to support your needs as a consumer. So you can see here you have threats related to there are, of course, vulnerability that you can patch, vulnerability that you are not allowed to patch because, of course, maybe it's in your hardware or maybe it's in your RAM, in ROM, in non-reprogrammable unit memory. But you need to understand what is the risk of having a vulnerability in that component, and of course, beyond the security update, you know that the market surveillance may force you to have also a recall. But this is not a discussion for this part of the conversation because it's also part of the new legislative framework regulation. And then, of course, we had here some notes that I want to give you, some challenge that is about the remote data processing. Why I highlighted that? Because as I told you before, the product is all. You have remote data processing, you have your device, you have the mobile application. What I noticed, and the general trend, is that manufacturer, most of the time, they are pushing the update, they are telling you on the device, they are telling you what they fix into the device because it's something visible for the customer. But the problem that we have is that in the backend, mostly there is something that is called silent patching. You really don't know what has been updated, and it's easier for the manufacturer to do so because it is under their control. And we need to understand under which level of flexibility CRA is allowing it. But to go to that detail, we need really to have a shared understanding of what is remote data processing and all the shades between that. Then, of course, there is another concept that is giving us a headache while we are defining how the requirement is what does it mean appropriate timelines and what does it mean timely updates, because of course, as you know, we really cannot specify time frame and is particularly different from different type of market, consumer, industrial, or specific vertical. So this is very difficult, and we need to understand also how to relate with verticals to make sure that they can cross complement the work that we are doing into the horizontal. So this is an overview of what are the security controls that we are inheriting from the 18031. You can see that there is some 1 and some 3 applicability of update mechanism, secure updates, and then there is automated updates as a mechanism that we are inherited. And then the added security control that we added, of course, is to have availability of the updates, because we extracted also from the text to have update mechanism, not only one but maybe multiple, and we need to understand how we can characterize that specific control to define better what does it mean timely update. User update notification, something that was not embedded in other standards. So we need to include in our security control and to make explicit the postponement of security update. And this is another security control, another functionality or security functionality that was not available before. We have the access control. So this is pretty much straightforward. While we were defining our control, we were discussing about including an access control reporting. It's something that is still into discussion to understand how we want to do it, how we want to translate in a security control. This is the reason why I included as a missing security control. We need to understand how to translate a report on possible unauthorized access and translate it in a security control. Seems straightforward, but it's not, and of course it's generating a lot of conversation, and maybe we can get some of the idea from you from the workshop, and then of course we can refine our view. Of course, here you can see that most of the security control they are inherited from 18031, and mostly I think that they are adequate for being englobated as it is into the CRA standard. But really we need to understand what is the delta in terms of reporting on possible unauthorized access, and we are still into discussion about that. Let's go to the next one, the confidentiality. This is also pretty much straightforward. You expect that the communication within your device, externally in your device, are maintained in a confidential way in all the data process, personal data, and one of the means to do so is the encryption. There are others way to do it, and then of course is important the keyword that you see here, that you need to maintain the state of the art. We have threads regarding that you need to, there is a disclosure for data at rest, data process, and data in transit, and this capture a little bit the essential requirement. Usually in our security control, I think that we missed so far for the integration of how to protect data in transit and processed. In transit is partially covered by the secure communication mechanism, maybe even 100%, but still we are into the analysis. Data in elaboration is still something that we need to understand if we need to calibrate and define a requirement better. And as you can see here, there is also the concept of best practice cryptography and is also aligned with the security control. We didn't add so far new additional control for this category, and we are still working on the refinement from the requirement from 18031. The other part, of course, you have confidentiality, and then you have also integrity. And integrity, of course, we are like the previous one. We have a problem with the protecting data processed. We need to understand how we can integrate that. And then, as you can see here, you have a requirement that we inherited from 18031, like secure storage mechanism, secure communication mechanism, but linked to the integrity and authenticity. We have also the data minimization. This is a big topic. So far, we didn't specify it further because this will need also a lot of conversation. We have the threats, but how to have data minimization within your system and understanding at which level we can describe as a security control is still challenging, but of course we will reach to that level. We just integrate the user notification mechanism. There are some of the controls, they are not directly related to the data minimization. But of course, when you have a change in how you use private information, you need to have also a way to notify the user that something changed. And this help and support the data minimization capability. But still, that requirement for red, they don't address the core need. This is the reason why we created something that is called the data minimization, still in progress. And we still need to understand how this looks like as a security requirement. We have availability. Of course, we need to make sure that we need to protect the availability of the essential functions. So we have a two level of threats, short-term and long-term. And we want to make sure that we have the recovery and the resiliency embedded in the device itself, as it is highlighted by the text. And of course, we may ask to manufacturer to document all the essential and basic function and to list what are the security control that are attached, and then a way to verify that. But still, this is still under the definition, and it will need a lot of conversation to understand how to translate in a specific requirement. There are some of similar requirement also in HC 300-3645. There is also the part of the requirement that is covered in 18031, like the resiliency mechanism. but it's not enough to cover all what is asked by the essential requirement from CRA. We need to have the reduction of the external impact of your device, so your device doesn't need to damage the network and the device that are around it. So, and we need to understand how you can prevent attack propagation. You have, for example, with endpoint protection that you can isolate a certain device, for example, or you have certain mitigation mechanism like IP filtering or zero trust, but we still need to translate to make sure how to translate this, and we have it here. It's not 100% appropriate to the equipment integrity. That means device boot, but of course this is supporting this essential requirement, and we decided to create other two requirement to security control, that is external impact limitation and prevention of attack propagation. Of course, there is a huge requirement next, that is the attack surface mitigation. And here there are a lot of ways to limit the attack surface. And in the essential requirement, you have that you need to include the essential external interface. You have input validation, black list, white list. You understand how you can you want to do it. Firewall, web application firewall, and you have also basic technique that you can apply, like hardening. Documentation is always a baseline view, because if you don't know what you need to protect, it's difficult to protect. So within our standard, we are making sure that there is this activity as basic as is also in PT1, and we will make sure that we have activity of documentation, and we will refer from PT1. And as you can see, there is also the classic input validation that needs to be there. Here you have the generic mapping with 18031, and then with all the general equipment capabilities. And so we are just inherited the requirements from 18031. As you can see in Jack 6, there is also input validation as it is. We of course we cannot take the text as it is, and we are adapting to the need of CRA. Here you have also an additional control on reduction of the actor surface. We just need to define how to better contextualize with the other requirement and make sure that we address the essential requirement. We have another one, that is the reducing the impact of the incident. This is not something that is happening magically, but is happening from the development, and there are some security control that you need to integrate from development. There is, for example, some hardening requirement that you integrate into the development part in the implementation. There are some exploitation mitigation technique that you can put from compiler level, from OS level, from runtime level, and just we need to understand how we can describe that in a more streamlined way. And of course, we don't have any mapping with the 18031, and we created an additional control that is called reduction of impact of an incident. We need to understand if we need to add more granularity or not to this requirement. I will keep generic, and we will make sure we will just rely on vertical to make it more specific. We are having monitoring and logging. Of course, to identify incident, you need to make sure that you recognize the incident itself and how you recognize it with the recording event. And we need to make sure under which level is reasonable and feasible. You can see the threats and the security objective that we identify in our TR, and how this is translated in security control and mapping with 18031, and what are the additional security control that we added I will not go into details because, of course, our time is limited, but this will be used within the day of the workshop as a catalog that you can pick and use, and then, of course, you can provide suggestions. The last one is data deletion. When you have the decommissioning process and the customer is throwing away your device because reached the end of life in his end, or you need to resell, you need to have a way to remove all the remnants, data remnants on their device itself and do it in a clean way. There are techniques like zeroization and so on and so on, and how you can do it this not only on the device itself, but also on associative services and then remote data processing, cloud part, and we are trying to describe and capture this. So, and this reach the end of the security control. I want to give you some of the reference for our for our reference that we use. So like the ENISA document, IoT Security Foundation requirements, first NIST, all the ETSI requirement, ISO, and so on. We have also standard that we refer about with PT2, and then you have all the list here. If you have additional that you want to propose or that we overlook, you can we will have the meeting in Madrid, and so you can reach out and we can understand if we miss something. But of course, there are standards that are not here that of course we consider, but they are less impacting. Just to give you an idea of what are the next steps, we started to develop with PT2 the technical standard. We are finalizing it with the latest threats. What we are trying to do is to understand if there is a missing threats or is totally aligned with the essential requirement, or we miss something, and we are trying to understand how we can contextualize this to a real product for this threat. These threats are high levels, so it will be difficult really to translate in every, but of course, if we have a couple of use cases, we can demonstrate that is a solid, at least as a baseline of threat that we can refer to. And of course, based on that, we need to be able to characterize a security control. And we can use some example like a big camera, washing machine, smart washing machine, or others. This slide I also presented to the CyberStand event to make sure if there is somebody that wants to step up within the CyberStand that wants to take on this task and wants to try to contextualize the threat model. Is free to do so, and then it can help and support the work that we are doing with some concrete example. This will be very amazing. Like PT2 is a standard that is still an early stage. We are building up on it in 10031. We are defining other controls, but it's not still in a mature stage. There is sometimes but we need also to try to speed up our work in a way to make sure that PT2 is also supporting also the other standard, and of course is a mean for manufacturer to select better their security control or to be used as a reference. And of course, at the end, this is another call for action in the future. When we have a more complete PT2 draft, it will be interesting to have a pilot evaluation of the security control for a real case. Let's say that what we are doing with the workshop in Spain in 23rd is similar, and this is a preliminary way and a demonstration how things could look like. And we will try to see also what will be the outcome of our cases. So this is the last part of the presentation, because I want also to provide you with the time with asking questions, and of course also to Amanda to finalize this part, but I want to give you an introduction of what the workshop will look like. So as you are aware, this webinar was in preparation of the event, UNE event in Spain, in Madrid, on the 23rd of September. I will not go in details for the event, because I will leave this to Amanda, but at least this is the reference. You will have the link in my presentation. What will happen in this workshop? So we will have time switch. So I think that I will have it. I have it in the next slide. So we will have a real product from a company that was very open and supportive for having a real use case. So thank you for Genui and for all the effort. So they will provide us with a real device that is this time switch. And this time switch is configured with a mobile application. This time switch is used in office. Usually is installed in building and is used to control heating or air condition, because you need to have, for example, 2 hours of working of that device per day, or 4 hours, and then you can put it to the socket, the time switch, and then you can deactivate all in a centralized manner. And so this is also a good system. And you can program all this for managing the consumption of your device in buildings. We created an imaginary also critical scenario, because not all the security control that we will have for PT2 can be contextualized in a less critical environment, and so this is the reason why we gave this scenario in a case that we need more consideration, and we created an imaginary, it's not used, but a time switch used for a data center, where all the computer are connected to this socket that maybe is hacked, and this can overheat or shut down all the server in a data center. It's not the case, but it's just to give you a choice when you are on the on-site workshop. So the objective that you will have is that what you will have as an input will be this device, will be the analysis of the risk assessment and treatment that the DNUI did. So thank you again. That was excellent work, and this is amazing, because we will have a real device. We will have the link with the essential cybersecurity requirement. We will have all the communication with relevant stakeholders that you will have also on site. You can speak with me and with her. You can have also the updates, life cycle, or all the security property of the device, documentation, and this will be your input, and this will allow you to go through the use case. This is how it should look like, at least the device itself, because you can have the time switch is communicating with the mobile app with the Bluetooth. Is pretty simple, but in their simplicity is capturing 90% of the product within the market that will be on the default category, and of course is capturing also the means so the small medium enterprise, and what are their challenging, and so we can really emphasize more, and so be closer to their difficulties, and of course to understand better how to calibrate the requirement also for this scenario, and most importantly from horizontal perspective. So you have your mobile application, you have your interface where you can set the timer and you can configure everything, and then you have a backend where data are registered, the user, the owner is registered, and all the information. So you can say that in this scenario is simple, but you still have all the components that are required for CRA to be evaluated and to be compliant. So just to give you again an highlight, you will have the the presentation from the UNE. So on site, this is just an extract of the presentation. I mean, the last slide. On site, you will have a detailed presentation of what are all the risks, what is the architecture, what are the documentation, and you will learn more about that product. You can also go and check on the website just to have an idea of the type of product if you want to prepare in advance. And then you have my presentation, that is the PT2 security control. Exactly is similar to this, but during the day I will not cover anymore the introduction that I covered today, but I will focus and I will repeat again the second part with the security control, and we can see if there are some questions. So I will make sure that we make this event as much as effective as possible. We will have the case study feedback. So every one of you will have access to Microsoft form with some questions that you need to answer. And this question needs to be answered in coordination with your table coordination. There will be an event that will be on site. You will have 10 coordinators with 10 tables because we are around 100 people there. And then you will be assigned to not all the risk, you will be assigned to a subset of the risk. So 2 risk, and then we will ask you to select the right security control, to have a conversation between you and to understand what are the main lesson learned, the main challenge, and maybe you didn't find the right security control from our catalog, and then you have an additional control that we didn't consider, that is important to consider. We want to learn that from you. We want to see if we missed something, if we need to be careful in a characterization of security control in a better way. So this is the aim that we have from this workshop. Then, like I said, we have the 10 coordinators that will be assigned to 10 breakout rooms. The room will be like 40 each, and will be online. We need to, like I said before, we need to assign the right security control for the pre-assigned risk. All the coordinator will be guiding you through the case study feedback. And then the table coordinator will need to summarize this point, and then we will have a panel discussion with what are the main points that we learn. And this is the last slide to give time also for the closure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Angelo. That was great. And in the meantime, we also received some questions in the chat. And because we have some time left, I wanted to propose to you to have a look at 3 of them. I marked them in the Q&A section to answer the questions live. I'm not sure if you can see them, and otherwise I can read them out loud for you.
Yeah, maybe we can, we have 20 minutes left, so maybe Amanda can proceed with her presentation. I can look at the question, then we can start again.
Sounds absolutely great. Thank you, Angelo. So with that, I will then give the floor to Amanda to walk us through the practical details of joining the workshop in UNE. Most of you probably are already registered, and that's why you're following this session. Hi, Amanda. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Lucia and Angelo. I will share with you my presentation, okay?
You see the screen now. I can share the slides for you.
Okay. Okay. Could you please turn to the first page of
This is
the
the first page.
uh oh yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Now I see it. Thank you so much. Okay, so thank you so much, Angelo, for your comprehensive presentation on the development of the CRA horizontal standards. And now I will give you, but could you hear me clearly, right?
Yes.
Okay,
So
perfectly. Thank you. I just will give you a brief presentation on the practical information about our CRA workshop in Spain. And yeah, hello everyone. I'm Amanda Su, the ICT standardization project manager at UNE, and I'm thrilled to announce all of you our outcoming workshop on the Cyber Resilience Act and the horizontal standards, which will take place on the 23rd September in Madrid. Well, this workshop forms part of the Stand for CR project, which is funded by the ISMEA under grant agreement Y011 and we are playing a key role in the drafting harmonized standards to support CRA compliance with a clear deadline of the October of 2026. So next slide, please. Okay, so for this workshop, our focus is on the item from 2 to 14 of the CRA standardization request, especially the generic essential security requirements for products with digital elements. Okay, so this cover authentication, access control, cryptography requirements, secure communications, data protection, and incident monitoring. Okay, we are we will be bringing together the manufacturers, distributors, cybersecurity professionals, certification bodies, academics, and government representatives. Essentially, everyone who will need to apply with the CRA. Okay, that's the target group. So now about the agenda. The workshop runs from 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. in a hybrid format, and the any attendees Hotel Madrid. The morning sessions will feature speakers from the European Commission's CENELEC and INCIBE, okay, Spanish National Institute of Cybersecurity. And the afternoon sessions from 12:10 to 4:30 p.m. focus on our dynamic case studies. So that is where your input and the contributions will be most valuable. Okay. And okay, for now, we currently have over 100 in-person registrations and over 400 online registrations. And yeah, this is your opportunity to influence and participate in the development of CRA standards directly before they are finalized. So here below, I give you the registration link. So please use this link to do your registration. And thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you soon in Madrid.
thank you, Amanda, for that summary. We look forward to seeing you. Probably most of you will follow online, but it will be still required that you participate as much as possible. We have breakout sessions, and as Angelo was explaining before, and it will be really a hands-on workshop where we are looking forward to gathering your inputs. So with that, I'm looking back to Angelo to see if you had time to check the questions and if you're ready to answer them.
Yeah, so I think that we have We have some answer. I answered to some offline. Can you select some? Because some are related to if the slides are available and so on. Can you?
Yes, so I think there is only one remaining one. If we can extend on the secure by default configuration down in the supply chain, how to offer flexibility on the secure configuration of components to ease their integration into final products.
Good. So this can be something that we can elaborate during the workshop because we don't have an answer, but of course, CRA wants to provide as much as flexibility as possible, and this is the objective of the horizontal standard, to not link you to do something in a mandatory way. And by the way, standards are never mandatory. So
one complementary answer can be, so we have a mandate for vertical standards, so product-specific standards for important and critical products. But as you know, there are many other products, of course, for the CRA, and those are called the default class, and they also have to comply with CRA, right? So the only difference is that in one case, in the default category, you can self-assess as manufacturer, and you can rely on frameworks like existing ones or the ones that are being developed for the CRA. Now, for example, horizontal frameworks that you later complement with anything specific from your products. And then also for the important and critical products, we will have these vertical standards that will be really establishing and fulfilling with all of the CRA essential requirements. So when we think now about the supply chain, because it's a very interesting question about supply chain, each time a product is placed in the market, so if it's a component and it's placed in the market, they will have to fulfill with the requirements of the CRA. Therefore, it's very important then that the CRA brings this shared responsibility on how to, let's say, fulfill all of the requirements. So as for example, if you're assembling a product, then you will have probably bought from someone else above the supply chain a component that will have also as well to comply with the CRA. So that forces the supply chain to talk to each other, so that in a way you guarantee that you're obtaining all of the information that you need as a manufacturer that assembles, for example, many of the components. Indeed, we can discuss more in different webinars that we will have. We have launched the webinar series, CRA Webinars Standards Unlocked, where we dedicate webinars and deep dive sessions to the vertical standards. And I think there will be better spaces as well to discuss about the supply chain rather than the horizontal ones that we will be dedicating in the upcoming events now at UNE. I think we have covered most of the questions. Otherwise, we will try to reply online and publish the Q&A reports, and so that you can access it together with the slides and the recording. And you can find all of this information in the CENELEC website where you have already registered. With that, we would like to say thank you to you and everyone. Thank you, Angelo, for all the preparations. Thank you, Amanda, for presenting. My colleague Els has launched a poll, so we would really appreciate if you can give us some feedback so that we can learn from you, and we want to know if it went well, if it was useful for you. So please don't hesitate to drop your feedback here. And thank you very much, Els, for making all of this possible, for all of the organization, and for keeping everything so organized. So with that, we would like to close this webinar, and thank you again very much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.